On a muddy bank along the Platte River in 1853, a woman 7 months pregnant knelt at dawn to scrub a blood-stained petticoat against a flat rock. Her name was Amelia Stewart Knight. She had not changed her dress in over a week. The wagon train behind her would not wait. She wrote it all down. The weather, the mud, the miles still ahead. Her diary survived. She is one of the few who told the truth. The movies dressed frontier women in pressed cotton and clean aprons. The women themselves told a different story. 25 facts are ahead of you tonight. One of them was the real killer, the one that took more pioneer women than cholera, more than any river crossing gone wrong. And it is not the one you think. Now, before we go any further, tap that subscribe button. Watch until the end. The top 5 is very brutal. We are not going to the costume department for this. We are going to the women who were there. Their trail diaries written in pencil on paper that barely survived the rain. Their letters home, mailed from army posts where the surgeon noted the condition of every emigrant passing through. The midwife casebooks that sat in county archives for 100 years before anyone read them. And the pages of Godey's Ladies' Book, printed in Philadelphia, that told these women what a respectable lady should look like. Pages that must have read like a cruel joke to a woman standing over a fire in a dress she had worn for 6 weeks straight. A bar of store-bought soap cost 25 cents on the frontier. A hired hand earned $1 a day if he was lucky. Cleanliness was not a choice out there. It was a battle fought with almost nothing. Number 25. The Saturday night bath. 1 wooden tub, 1 kettle heated over the stove. Father went first, then mother, then the children, oldest down to youngest. By the last child, the water was gray. Catherine Haun crossed the California Trail in 1849 and wrote about her first real bath after weeks on the road. She described the color of the water as something she preferred not to name, and a weekly tub was the luxury of a settled homestead. On the Overland Trail, a full bath might come once a month if the route crossed a clean creek. Most of the time, it did not. Number 24. Teeth. A woman cleaned hers with a rag dipped in salt or baking soda. Some used charcoal scraped from the cook fire. Others chewed a frayed willow twig until the fibers spread like bristles. Army surgeons at Fort Laramie examined emigrant women passing through and noted their dental condition in post-reports. The records are blunt. By 40, many frontier women had lost half their teeth. Open any issue of Godey's Ladies' Book, and you will see illustrations of women with perfect smiles. Then look at the photographs. Every portrait, lips closed. There is a reason for that. Number 23. Homemade soap. Not the gentle bar you are imagining. Hardwood ash leached in water, boiled with rendered hog fat after the fall slaughter. The LYE could raise blisters if the proportions went wrong. Lydia Maria Child printed the recipe in the American Frugal Housewife in 1832 and did not bother warning about the burns. She assumed her readers already knew. A woman made a full year's supply in a single day, stirring a boiling iron kettle in the yard until her arms gave out. That soap stripped grease, it stripped dirt, and it stripped skin right along with it. Number 22. A working frontier woman might own 2 dresses her whole life, one for daily wear, one for Sunday or burial. The daily dress stayed on until it held its own shape from sweat and grease and dried blood. Amelia Knight wrote about the impossibility of laundering on the move. Washing a heavy wool dress cost a full lost day. A lost day meant falling behind the wagons. And falling behind the wagons could mean dying alone. So the dress stayed filthy and the woman kept walking. Number 21. In a Nebraska sod house in January, the outhouse sat 40 yards from the door. A blizzard could kill a person in that distance. So the chamber pot lived under the bed. 1 room, 6 children, no privacy, and a cold ceramic pot emptied at first light. The frontier magazines printed illustrations of women seated at elegant dressing tables. The women themselves crouched over a pot in the dark and hoped the children stayed asleep. Number 20. Nobody washed their hair on the trail. Women braided it tight, pinned it under a bonnet, and left it alone for weeks. Some rubbed bear grease or tallow through the strands, the same treatment they used on saddle leather. Narcissa Whitman crossed to Oregon in 1836 and wrote home about the difficulty of even combing her hair. The shining waves on every frontier heroine in every Western ever filmed are pure invention. Not one frame of it is real. Number 19. Apple cider vinegar rode in crockery jugs strapped to the side of the wagon. It cleaned wounds, rinsed hair, wiped surfaces, and preserved food. For hundreds of miles, it was the only antiseptic a woman had. Emigrant guides from the 1840s listed it alongside flour and salt as essential. When the jug ran dry, there was nothing to replace it. Nothing between a cut hand and whatever the prairie dirt carried into the wound. Number 18. Between the rare full baths, the daily reality was a tin basin, a rag, and cold water. On the trail, drinking water came first, cooking second. Washing was whatever remained. In a winter homestead, the water in that basin froze solid overnight. A woman broke the ice with her knuckles before dawn and washed her face in water cold enough to numb skin in seconds. That was frontier hygiene, every single morning. We are not even halfway through this list. And the one that killed them has not appeared yet. Keep your guess. It is still ahead. Number 17. Monday was wash day, not a chore. The hardest physical labor most women performed all week. Hauling water, sometimes 50 gallons for a family load. Heating it over a fire, scrubbing on a corrugated board until the knuckles bled. Wringing each piece by hand, hanging it in the wind, pressing it with a heated flat iron. In census records from the 1850s and 60s, thousands of women are listed under a single word. Laundress. It was the hardest and lowest paid work a woman could find on the frontier. Nobody ever put a laundress in a Western. Number 16. Lice were not an occasional nuisance. They were a constant companion. Every evening by firelight, a mother sat behind each child and picked through the hair strand by strand. A fine-toothed comb was a prized possession. When the comb broke, fingernails did the work. Some women soaked scalps in kerosene. In a sod house lit by a single open flame, that remedy carried its own kind of danger. The cure for one misery opened the door to something worse. Number 15. Hand-sewn cotton rags, washed and reused month after month. But the real fact here is not the rag. It is the silence around it. Trail diaries record every broken axle, every dead ox, every mile counted off in exhausting detail. About this, almost nothing. Not because it did not happen, because no woman in 1853 thought it was hers to write down. Historians like Susan Boutreuil spent years piecing the reality together from what women simply could not bring themselves to say. The gap in the record is not an absence of history. It is the history. Number 14. No cotton diapers for weeks at a stretch. Women stuffed moss, dried grass, or shredded bark into cloth wrappings and tied them shut. On the open plains where moss did not grow, they used whatever the ground offered. Soiled cloth was scraped clean, rinsed in creek water, if any was near, and reused within the hour. Midwife account books from frontier counties list the same instruction over and over, passed from one mother to the next. Boil what you can, dry it by the fire, and never let a baby lie in it long. Nobody wrote this down for historians. They wrote it down so the next mother would not have to guess. Number 13. No movie has ever shown what a wagon train smelled like. Sweat, animal dung, spoiled food, campfire smoke, unwashed wool, and 200 bodies that had not bathed in weeks. Army officers stationed at western posts recorded it in their reports. Visitors to frontier towns described it in letters home. The people living inside it stopped noticing within a week. The human nose shuts down what it cannot fix. The women who lived in that smell had no more power over it than they had over the wind. Past the halfway mark now, and still the real killer has not shown itself. Hold your answer. We are getting close. Number 12. When the trail crossed a river deep enough to stand in, women waded in fully clothed and scrubbed what they could. But the rivers killed. Drowning was among the leading causes of death on the overland roads. Heavy wool skirts and layers of petticoats turned to anchors in moving water. Women who could not swim, and most could not, died reaching for the one thing they had gone weeks without: a clean body. The attempt to get clean was itself a way to die. Number 11. Pale skin was the mark of a lady. Dark skin meant field work. To stay fair, women used compounds laced with arsenic and lead. Fowler's solution, a liquid made with potassium arsenite, sat on the shelf of every frontier drugstore. Some women swallowed arsenic wafers shipped from Europe. The damage came slowly. Hair thinning, skin splitting, organs failing. Death arriving from the very thing a woman believed was making her beautiful. The beauty ideal of the era was poison, sold in a bottle, applied with trust. Number 10. Calomel. A mercury compound and the most trusted remedy a frontier doctor could hand a patient. Not a vanity purchase like the arsenic wafers. This one came with a diploma behind it. A woman took it because the man who gave it to her had trained back east and knew things she did not. Trembling fingers, teeth loosening and falling free, a confusion that deepened into madness. The damage was slow enough that nobody connected it to the cure. Keep that word in mind. Trusted. It is going to matter again before this list is over. Number 9. The privy stood too close to the well. Nobody understood why that mattered. Typhoid, cholera, and dysentery tore through homesteads because human waste seeped into the same groundwater the family drank. A woman could scrub her cabin until it shone and still lose 2 children in a single week to water she believed was clean. There was no test for it, no warning. The families who dug their wells uphill survived at higher rates. Not one of them could have told you why. The knowledge that would have saved them was half a century away. Number 8. The work guaranteed the cuts. Axes, knives, barbed fencing, broken crockery, the ragged edge of a tin lid peeled back too fast. When a woman opened her hand, the wound got turpentine, coal oil, or a rag soaked in whiskey. Some women pressed a spider web directly into the cut, a remedy handed down from their grandmothers. That web carried mild antiseptic properties, though nobody living then could have explained it. Clean bandages did not exist. A strip torn from a worn shirt, boiled if there was time, raw if there was not. Infection was the expected outcome, not the exception. We are down to the last 7, and the fact I have been holding back has not appeared on this list yet. The real killer wore no war paint and carried no weapon. It walked through the front door, welcomed and trusted. Stay with me. Number 7. Women gave birth in moving wagons, beside the trail, in the rain, in the back of a tent with wind tearing the canvas. Amelia Stewart Knight delivered her 8th child along the Columbia River Road in 1853. Her diary entry for that day runs a few short lines. The wagon train did not slow. The berth was attended by whichever women happened to be walking nearest. Unwashed hands reaching down onto a wagon bed stained from 100 earlier uses. Most mothers survived that day, but the ones who did not often died days afterward, not from the birth, from what was carried into them during it. Number 6. Childbed fever. Remember this number. After delivery, a woman's temperature would spike without warning. Infection raced through her blood. Within days, she was gone. On the frontier, roughly one birth in every 20 to 40 ended this way. In the lying-in wards of Eastern hospitals, the numbers climbed far higher, sometimes 1 in 5. The cause was bacteria carried on unwashed hands, the hands of the person delivering the baby. Nobody knew. The dying women were told they were unlucky or weak or suffering God's will. They were none of those things. They were infected by the hands that reached in to help them. Remember number 6. We are coming back to it. Number 5. Here is where the record splits wide open. On the frontier, most births were attended by neighbor women or traveling midwives. Women with no diploma, rough hands, and folk methods learned from their mothers. In eastern cities and army post hospitals, trained physicians performed the deliveries. The physicians had higher death rates, not slightly higher, dramatically higher. The reason stayed hidden for decades. The doctors came straight from the autopsy table, from the surgical ward, from the deathbed of the last patient. They did not wash. The midwife, who had spent her morning kneading bread and scrubbing her kitchen, carried less death on her fingers than the man with the medical degree. That is not legend. That is what the records show. Number 4. In 1847, a Hungarian physician named Ignaz Semmelweis stood in the maternity ward of Vienna General Hospital and watched women die. He counted every death. He compared the two wards, and he proved that when doctors washed their hands in a chlorinated lime solution before touching a patient, the death rate fell from roughly 1 in 10 to fewer than 1 in 100. He begged his colleagues to wash. They refused. They mocked him openly. He was stripped of his position and driven from Vienna. In 1865, he was committed to an asylum where guards beat him within days of his arrival. He died 2 weeks later at the age of 47. The cause was almost certainly sepsis, the same infection he had given his life trying to stop. His proof was already in print. The profession ignored it for 20 more years. Number 3. Some frontier women with no training and no knowledge of germ theory boiled their birthing rags. They boiled their wound dressings and the cloths they used to clean newborns. They could not have explained why. No textbook taught them. Their grandmothers told them, or their own hard-watching told them, that boiled cloth seemed to bring less fever than cloth taken straight from the pile. These women were practicing a form of sterilization decades before the medical world accepted the idea. Not one of them has a name on a plaque or a line in a school book. They saved lives they never counted with knowledge they could not name. Number 2. The most dangerous moment in a pioneer woman's life was not the river crossing, not the blizzard, not the snake coiled by the creek. It was the moment a pair of hands reached for her newborn child. If those hands belonged to a physician who had just examined a dying man or touched a corpse and had not washed, the mother's chance of death climbed 5 times over. The cleaner the doctor appeared, the more dangerous he might be. The frontier midwife with cracked, lye-roughened fingers, hands that had been in hot water all day, was the safer pair of hands in that room. Nobody alive could have told you why. Number 1. The deadliest hygiene fact on this entire list is not about dirt. It is not about any single practice of staying clean. It is that the arrival of what the world called modern medicine, the educated physician, the hospital ward, The polished veneer of progress actually raised the death rate for women giving birth. The women who survived best were the ones farthest from the institutions that claimed to help them. A dirt floor cabin with a neighbor midwife was safer than an Army post hospital staffed by a surgeon trained back east. The women who boiled their rags and trusted their own hands outlived the ones with access to every advantage the century offered. No movie has ever shown you that. The women themselves never knew it. They buried their daughters and their friends and blamed God or luck. It was neither. It was a man who did not wash his hands. So let us stop counting and look at what the evidence proves. Semmelweis was not alone, and that is the part almost nobody knows. In Boston, 4 years before Vienna, Oliver Wendell Holmes had already reached the same conclusion from his own case records and published it as The Contagiousness of Puerperal Fever. The medical establishment called it the fantasy of a poet and ignored him too. 2 men, 2 continents, the same evidence, the same wall of refusal. Neither lived to see the profession admit it. The women kept dying in the meantime, not from a mystery, but from a fact that had already been proven and set aside. 3 forces built the false picture. First, Hollywood. Every Western that dressed a frontier woman in a spotless gown with clean fingernails and a pressed collar. Not one frame of it earned. Second, the publishers. Godey's ladies' book shipped an impossible standard of womanhood from a Philadelphia press to women boiling lye in the yard and burying children in unmarked ground. And third, the worst offender of all, the medical profession itself. Doctors who were shown, with proof, that their own unwashed hands were killing their patients, and who chose their pride over the lives of the women lying on their tables. Semmelweis gave them the numbers. They destroyed him for it. Here is my answer to the question I put to you at the start. The real killer was not dirt. It was not the trail or the weather or the lack of soap. It was a 15-second act that almost nobody performed. Washing hands. The one person in that room with authority and training was the one who carried death in with him, and the women who stayed dirty by the standards of their own time, who boiled their rags out of instinct and trusted the neighbor with rough working hands, quietly outlived the women who had access to everything the era called progress. Today, you turn a faucet and wash your hands without a second thought. That reflex cost Ignaz Semmelweis his career, his sanity, and his life before the world would listen. And the frontier women who practiced it out of nothing but grandmother wisdom have no monument anywhere. Somewhere beneath ground that was never marked, there is a woman who saved more lives than she could have counted, with nothing but hot water and a scrap of boiled cloth and the stubborn faith that her grandmother knew what she was talking about. Which one of these would your own grandmother have known? Tell me below. And if you want the truth behind another story, the movies dressed up and got wrong, the next one is already waiting for you.